early from our start time, getting things set up. Adam's still working on getting our multicast set up, and he should be joining us shortly. Robert, I did just send you a request to speak. Let me know. Sometimes this seems to not work. Let me invite that again, or feel free to request and I will approve.
Yeah, I'm here now. I'm at the Toyota dealership dealing with this flat tire issue again. So I'm just gonna be listening for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
No problem. I'll just hang out in the space all by myself.
Well, you can. I mean, we can talk now. I just don't know when my truck's coming back. I'm standing outside, drinking coffee, and my truck's been in the shop for 2.5 hours for a flat tire. So I don't know what they're doing, but
yeah. No, I'm just joking. I was sitting in here by myself for a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, Brett. I'm sending you a invitation to speak. Welcome and thanks for joining. Adam, I cannot invite you to co-host. I think you'll have to do that on your own. We're having a few more people jump in. Let me see. Let's everyone that's here, welcome. Thank you. Let's go ahead and retweet out this invite. Let's get some more people in here. Feel free to just go ahead and you can either invite by DM or you can go down in the bottom right hand corner and retweet out. I think there's a plus button, little plus purple symbol. Hit that. You can retweet out the space. Let's get some more people here. It's only just 11 now. That's our technical start time. We usually spend a few minutes just getting more faces in here. So we'll really kick things off maybe about 5-10 minutes. Adam, hello. Looks like you're now.
Yeah, I'm going to get some music going here for us for a little bit while we hang out. So bear with me.
Hey everyone, while the music's playing, let's keep sending out invites. Invite via DM.
All right. Get things kick-started here a little bit. All right, everybody make sure to hammer that retweet right now. I'm seeing a couple retweets. We could use a couple more. Definitely hammer the retweets and replies as well in the bottom right hand corner of these spaces. Real easy to do. Help get word out about ShopLith and everything that we're doing, and talks on Fidgetals and actual utility. One of the great things about doing these spaces every Saturday is we're able to kind of start changing the environment for crypto Twitter. So many people out there that are just throwing around a bunch of fluff and small talk about flipping $30 PFPs, when the reality is the people are wanting use case and utility, and we're able to talk about that here. So glad to see everybody in here. Rob Roy is one of our artists. Brett Amory is another one of our artists on our speaker panel here today. And actually, I want to bring in Andrew as well, the founder of the LITH token. And we also have Tanya here. I'm going to bring you in as a speaker. I invited you guys to speak. So Andrew, if you're on computer, that's all right. Just let me know in the replies. That will be the way to go. If otherwise, just accept the invitation to speak. We'll pull you up here. And Tanya, let's get you in here as well. We've got Tyler, who's a team member of LITH Token and everything that we're doing over at Shop LITH. In fact, he's been busy helping mint a lot of our first true phigitals, true physical NFTs. They're not just a digital twin and a physical object that are just associated with each other. It could be spoofed. They are actual physical NFTs using the known protocol, where the authentication actually ties in to the whole process of the NFT and the physical object being married together and required. So that's extremely exciting, knowing that we're getting started with those things. And today's talk is really about just one of ones in the art world. And when we're talking about one of ones, we're talking one of one NFTs over at Shoplith, being that that's what we're minting right now is one of ones. It is just a fun, open conversation. I want people to hop in and engage. Please do speak over me. I don't want to be monologuing this whole time. There's so many different things that we can talk about. Now, if you're on LinkedIn or on Facebook or YouTube right now watching this, I love it. Thank you. You can engage in the comments. We won't be seeing that until after we get done with this space. So make sure to go ahead and hop on over to Twitter if you want to engage live. And I do highly recommend you get involved with the conversation. We want to hear from more people than just our team members here and the artists. But this will be available on those 3 other platforms that I was discussing other than Twitter after we in this space. So welcome everybody. Sean, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, you are helping out LITH Token a lot and helping with operations quite a bit. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Sean. I am director of operations at LITH Token. I'm coming in more from the I guess traditional finance and pretty new to the world of crypto and NFTs, but I am learning fast and extremely interested. Very, very happy to be here and on board, and loving it. And happy to be working with this great team. I don't know what else is there to say.
Well, there's a ton to say. You're over here building out a lot of the actual operations for the team, and I'm going to ask now that we've got Andrew in as a speaker, he can speak on that. You've been so very helpful with everything that we've been doing as we're building, getting ready for launch here as well. But Andrew, glad to have you in on a Twitter space. I think this is your first one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely my first Twitter space to be speaking on. I'm just getting used to the whole spaces thing, but I love it. I love where this is going, and I think this is perfect for what we're doing and being the startup and getting our development out and getting everything ready to go. And I'm excited to get these Twitter spaces going every day.
100%. So everybody knows Andrew is the founder to LITH Token, and not everybody's heard the story on LITH Token that is going to be catching this later. I know we've got a lot of community members and team members in here right now, but for those that are going to be catching this later or jump in while you're speaking here, why don't you let them know about why you decided to start the project and how we came to be?
Sure. Yeah. So really LITH Token was started because for a couple of reasons. One reason being we got scammed in a DeFi project, and myself and some of my business partners involved in a lithium production company. We really wanted to build something, long-term, sustainable, and just real. And we just kept seeing, all these DeFi projects that, said they were charitable projects, said they were utility projects, and really they were neither of both. And so we wanted to, build something long-term and, something that, we could help, that will help a lot of people. And, the first aspect of that was a charitable aspect, and, bringing awareness and going and helping these people in South America where, the lithium production is terrible for the environment. And, we wanted to go help the indigenous people that are really affected by the conventional way that lithium is produced. Our lithium company actually has technology to where we have zero carbon footprint whatsoever when we produce. And so obviously a big deal being that, we're moving into this, energy transition where batteries and lithium are a huge component of moving us to where governments, globally want us to be. So we saw the opportunity, to pair our token and the charitable aspect with, our lithium production company to be on the ground and go help these people. We've started the IPI wallet, which is the Indigenous Peoples Initiative wallet, which we've partnered with Insortia, our lithium company. And once we get, going and producing down there, this next year, we're going to be putting projects together and really be on the ground helping these Indigenous peoples who are really, these Indigenous communities who are affected by the conventional way lithium's produced. So really excited about that. So that was the initial, couple of reasons of why we started this. And, going back to the utility part, we really wanted to build out, a utility portion to our token. And, Adam came in, found Adam, a couple months after we launched and, told Adam, listen, we want to build out the utility side. We want to show, where our lithium's going. So we wanted to track supply chain. We wanted to see where, our green produced lithium to what end users our lithium was going to. And, Adam came up with the great idea with the NFTs and NFC chips. And then, one thing led to another, and we just saw the opportunity for, the massive amount of use cases with this technology. So, patented the technology, built a patent to cover as much scope as possible, to cover as many use cases as possible. And obviously with where we're at with NFTs, artists was physical artists and physical creators was a low hanging fruit, and something that we really wanted to attack, being that all these digital artists and their NFTs was such a big deal, and there's so much hype and noise about digital artists. We wanted to figure out a way to get physical artists involved in NFTs, and that's what our technology is built to do. And we want to help people in every way that we can. And so, yeah, we're just excited about this technology. Excited to get LITH out, and build something long term and sustainable that people can really use every day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew, for the story of how we came about. And, while I came in a couple months after the initial start and launch of everything that was LITH token, I do consider myself a little bit of a co-founder, being that I've been able to help pull things together. And I would say, Andrew and team would agree, our ecosystem that we're building out, we didn't land on art being a use case by starting there. And that's actually important in knowing everything about what's going on and the relevance to the use case and the utility. We were exploring how to authenticate environmental social governance data and be able to prevent greenwashing of it. And when we were looking at things, the best solution happened to be utilizing NFTs with properly oracleized physical objects. And that, to me, I'm still kind of blown away that I incidentally had one of these ideas filed away in the back of my mind, and it was able to bring it forward to make this happen. And now here we are looking at being able to lock in royalties for physical artists in a way that's never been done, be able to help level the playing field with galleries and auction houses, and put a little bit more of an equal leveling of an equal play is probably a better word, finding some equity in the space of art between the sellers and resellers and the creators, and being able to protect the creators so that they're not being taken advantage of so much. So that's really exciting for all of us. Basically, this technology on its own really brings ethics to the forefront. And Sean, you should definitely speak on a couple things here with counterfeiting and the ethics there. But I think it's even more relevant in the art world than some of these others, just because counterfeiting creates a black market, and one of ones is something that you start devaluing something when you start getting a whole bunch of replicas and counterfeit items out there. Sometimes it actually does the opposite at the same time. It just depends on which buyer you're speaking with. But, there's things that we can touch on there. And I want to bring you up, Mark, as well, invite you to the conversation. Glad you're here. Mark is another artist that is part of our curation that is being minted right now. So, Mark, I just sent you an invite. And Sean, go ahead and jump in.
I'm jumping in. Well, I think one of the major use cases we found for our NFT technology is for authentication. Just like Adam was saying, I think this really comes into play even more so. I mean, I know that like forgeries are an issue in the art world, but we're seeing it become a really big issue in a lot of other industries, particularly fashion, also cosmetics. We're seeing the cosmetics industry. That's something we've been researching a lot recently. Tyler can probably speak on this as well. With actually major health concerns leading from degraded products and ingredients that are not necessarily what it says on the packaging, or people don't know what's in the ingredients. Like that's what gets me excited is all the other applications. Like I absolutely love working with artists and working with getting to know all the artists and I get really excited for the other applications that we're going to see down the road as we really get into our ESG dashboard and reporting that growth. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now.
It's all right. It's all right. You go off on your tangent. No, I'll pull it back and rein it back in a little bit. So, the conversation today that we are having is definitely on one of ones and the art world, and being able to get some insights into how the one of one NFTs being tied in really brings a lot of relevance to the forefront for physical artists in the NFT world. And I definitely want to just get some opinions from the artists before I start going on one of my own monologues here. And let's hop to Mark. Go ahead and there you are. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. Busy day, but just managed to get here in time for this, which I'm glad about. Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on the whole what's happening here, combining physical art with NFTs is really the main thing that got me interested in LITH token in the first place was the fact that you guys are the first people making a true marriage. And I really believe in it, which is why as soon as I got on board, I started to go out and promote this and find other artists, because I really believe that with the technology that you've created here, the physical is bringing the physical authentic aspect to the table, and the NFT version of the artwork is giving it the authentication and the provenance in a way that's never been done before. So I think together the two things are an incredible step forward.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that sentiment as a whole. Not even the shill. I mean, like I said before, I'm very much blown away that one of my old ideas cataloged away is able to do so much good right now. But Mark, my question for you right now as an artist in getting into the NFT space, but also coming over from a space where you're not just working on one-of-ones, you're also working on prints sometimes. And that is kind of the idea of where digital NFTs as a whole has kind of gone is more towards the printmaking side than anything else. But there is a little bit of a one-of-one community out there right now. When you're working on your artwork and you're creating a piece, do you usually have prints in mind, or are you usually looking at one-of-one and different versioning, kind of similar to how people are doing it with these collectible PFPs right now?
Well, I'd say most of my life as an artist, I was only ever really thinking as each individual drawing or painting or collage as a one-of-one unique piece. But the last 5 or 6 years, I've been primarily working in printmaking and teaching myself various types of printmaking. So then I started to kind of think more in editions of works. But now getting involved in this is making me think in lots of different ways. I mean, I'm making paintings for LITH, but some of the imagery that I'm using is stuff that has already been a drawing or a screen print, but now I'm just doing it in a different way. These paintings which I'm doing, which are just unique original paintings, but I'm already thinking somewhere down the line, I might adapt them in some way into printing. But my feelings about making work for LITH Token is that I want each piece to be a one-off, unique piece.
Right, but let me ask you about the actual value for printmaking when you start doing replicas and physical, like one of a kinds. Where are you finding the most value with collectors and insights from people that are buying prints? Is that kind of more of like a fundraise effort for artists, an artist like yourself, or is that more of an opportunity provision, I guess, where you're actually creating more of a level playing field for buyers? I mean, what have you noticed with buyers, and then also what's your thoughts on that in general in the markets as an artist?
Well, I think what got me into printmaking was I had so many images that, well, say for example, I've made a 6-foot painting of an image and everybody loves it, but they can't afford to buy the 6-foot painting, So, it was nice for me to be able to take some of my most popular images and start making like small screen printed editions of them, and normally I will only make about 20 or 25 of a print, and sometimes I'll only make 5 or 10. So yeah, it's like taking imagery that pretty much anybody can then afford, kind of make it more accessible to people. So yeah, that was kind of how I initially got into printmaking. But then it does have, the impact, depending on how much time you've spent on a piece, how many layers you've had to print to make a finished piece, how small or large the edition is. I mean, all of these have an impact on what you're going to, expect people to pay for it.
Absolutely. That's it. I don't know. There's just an interesting dynamic here in general. And when I look at the world of NFTs and where it's been, I think it is so heavily crossed over with the idea of creating collectibles that are like prints that done in the vein of how you've seemed done it a little bit, which is a lot of the same ones, just layered different. And NFTs are really the same thing. When I look at PFPs right now, it's just thrown in through AI and art generation via AI, and all these generative aspects and attributes that come in to create value for a piece. So it's just a real interesting thing to look at. Now, with one of ones, actually, Brett has some good insight. I know he's been exploring some AI stuff. Brett, why don't you come in and let people know kind of what you've been doing with the AI art that you've been exploring, and I want to hear from you your thoughts on where we're going with one of ones in the digital realm, and then also maybe where we can go with the physical tie-ins.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been exploring, GAN technology, and I guess those who aren't familiar with GAN technologies, AI use. So all of the platforms right now that are text to image based, like DALL-E and Midjourney, and there's a bunch of them, Night Cafe. They use like neural networks, GAN technology, to create the image based on the text prompt. So I've been exploring just different ways or ideas around using a GAN to create an image. But for me, like it's just a starting point. Um, my work, like my work is painting and installation, sound installation. Um, but it's always like painting's always come first for me, and painting for me has always been from something else, meaning it's always been from like a collage used as reference, and that collage is usually been made digitally first using Photoshop, drawings, paintings. Um, Drawing and paintings uses digital composites and then uses a reference point for paintings. And I've been, using digital means to create an image for 20 plus years. So I feel like this newer sort of text to image neural network GAN technology is just another tool that we have to create an image. Now, some artists are using the image that's being generated by AI as a means to an end, meaning that is the artwork. And there's been a lot of conversation around is it considered art, right? Because the artist isn't really, or the user isn't really physically making something, right? They're relying on this AI to create it based on a text prompt that's being given. And I think that's an age old question. I think that question came up when the daguerreotype was first invented, the first camera. Like artists were questioning the validity of it being considered art, right? The photograph, and then like the when Duchamp, put a shovel or a urinal in a gallery and called it art. The same thing came up: is it art, right? So the same questions are coming up around these AI based artworks. Is it considered art? And I guess that's another conversation. But just piggyback on what Mark was saying. Like I'm a painter first, like I said before, and I tend to work in series. So like the work that um, the work that I offered up for LITH for Shoplift is from this series titled Waiting that I've been working off and on for the last 20 years. I've made over 400 paintings and installations within that series. And then within the paintings, there are one-offs, but it is part of a larger body of work. So there's that aspect of it. And then from those paintings within the series, some of those paintings have been made into prints, right? And those prints, the reason why I would choose certain ones to do a print run of certain images to make a print was to cater to different markets, different demographics. Like maybe not everyone can afford a $10,000 painting, but they can afford $100 print, right? And I've worked with galleries where some galleries don't have the market to sell a $10,000 painting, but they can sell a print run out for $150,000, right? So there's like these different markets that exist, right? And I think that exists within the NFT space where it's a younger demographic. And this is a generalization, right? I'm sure there's all ages, types, whatever buying NFTs, but generally speaking, I would think it's a younger demographic, like millennial, Gen X, that are really interested in the NFT space. Um, and like it's more of a I feel like it's like almost more of a speculation than the traditional art world, and that's saying a lot, right? Because the art market is it's all based on speculation. But the NFT world is even more speculative, meaning, these things are bought and sold with the primary purpose to flip. Most people aren't holding on to these things, except for like the big ones, like the punks and the Board Ape Yacht Club NFTs, like the blue chip NFTs. People are holding on to them, but like the smaller ones that are being bought and sold with the primary purpose to flip them and make some money, right? And I think that does exist in the art world too. I mean, it's huge in the highbrow art world, where art is just bought as investment purposes only. And then like in the lower markets, prints that are affordable are also bought and sold to be flipped. So it's I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. I don't know if I answered your question or if I'm just going in.
No, you 100% did. You're pointing out all the parallels I was kind of talking about, and it's really interesting. Just thinking on this, I mean, even with prints being made in a way that has a little bit more of a reality to a one-of-one vibe still, because each print is not done exactly the same. It's as close as possible, but sometimes like you're talking about, that market for that piece that has that little bit of bleed can sometimes be more expensive than the rest, and it depends on who the artist is. But I know Banksy's had some print runs that he's had, that it was literally the most flawed piece was the most expensive one that was flipped like right away. And you do see that in the traditional markets, and I say traditional being the physical in real life or IRL realms. But all the parallels. It's really interesting, and I think one of ones is the primary starting point for the phygital world, and using known protocol. We're excited to have all the artists on board like you that have so many years of effort put into building their artwork that they're going to be selling now, unknowingly while they were building. It was going to end up being sold on Shop LITH once we get this rocking and rolling. So glad to have you here, glad to have Mark here, glad to have Rob Roy here on this space specifically. For everybody that catches it later, going to be super stoked to answer any questions here. You can connect with these people via their Twitter accounts. I'm going to ask all three of you artists to make sure to drop a reply down here in bottom right hand corner. You can hit the little speech bubble, drop a reply, so that way people know that they can catch up with you and follow you and see what artwork's going to be coming out here. Rob Roy, you also have a real unique approach to what I'm going to call this one-of-one recreation in dividing up pieces, and you've taken a totally different approach with the Spore Zone, which I absolutely I love it. It's almost the same idea as what we're seeing with I believe it's fractionalized.art, where you're able to take a digital piece and split it up into a bunch of little tiny pieces, and Spore Zone it kind of reminds me of that. With your building process, Rob Roy, if you're able to hop in, please do, or even hop in just for a quick second to let me know that you can't. But with your building process here, where was your head at, or am I going to be left going on to another conversation?
Well, if Rob Roy's not there, I've got a few things I'd like to say.
Go ahead, hop in, Mark. Yeah, he's got himself muted still. He must be he's always working on his art. But go over to you, Mark.
Crazy. Just a couple of things Brett was talking about, like for example, the AI. A good artist friend of mine recently sent me a whole a Google Drive full of drawings and prints of mine, which he'd put through AI and put in various prompts. And it was really interesting. It was very interesting as potential sort of jumping boards or starting points. Like, I have the same feeling as Brett, but I would never consider that a finished art piece. But it definitely gave me ideas on different ways that I could take some of my pieces, or different twists that I could put on drawings I'd already made. So I think AI is a really good tool for sort of giving you new inspiration, maybe pushing you in new directions that you wouldn't have necessarily thought about. you're also talking about Rob Roy's ideas, where there's like many small parts of a series, and one of the series that I'm going to be making for LITH Token is going to be the first 3 canvases of an ongoing painting where every canvas will connect to the next one. So I think things like that could be really interesting for the NFT marketplace. It's a series, but it's not just like Bored Ape or something where it's the same monkey but with a different hat, or smoking a cigar or something. It's a series of works that all connect to make one larger work. So I'm really interested in seeing how however artists are going to do similar things like that in the NFT market. And one last thing I was thinking, um, Brett was saying that a lot of people in the NFT market are buying to flip and to make a profit. And I actually think that that's brilliant on a certain level, because you are locking royalties into these pieces for artists. For the first time, really, artists are going to be directly benefiting and making a percentage of all of those times where their work is getting flipped. So I say bring it on. I hope that people will buy some of my works because they love it so much they want to hold on to it long term or whatever. But I'll also be very happy if some people just want to flip them and they go for higher amounts, and it brings in some residual money for myself. So as I've said many times, this is one of the great benefits, I think, and it's way long overdue. And one of the most incredible things about what we can do with NFTs now is actually the artist is getting paid properly for the first time ever. He's not having to give 50% of his money to a dealer or a gallerist, and then when the person buys a painting and sells it at insane profits sometime down the line, the artist gets nothing. I mean, now the artist will get something. They'll take 95% of the money off the first sale, and they'll take a percentage moving forward. And that's like just a small sort of thank you for all the years. How long have artists been making many other people rich?
Right. And that brings about the whole conversation on royalties, and also an entirely new dynamic in the NFT space. In a new dynamic that's going to get real interesting for us in our own technology is watching artwork just flip, physical artwork flip at the speed of light, basically, or at the speed of social media, however fast it wants to roll here. Our technology with the escrow process and sending something out, you're going to end up seeing people flipping it and seeing something get shipped off, sent out, and somebody that receives it, there's going to be ways to be able to keep the ball rolling with buyers and sellers, people potentially flipping these physical NFTs ahead of receiving an item. There's going to be ways with us, we're considering in our technology how to build out the actual escrow process to make sure and ensure the shipping actually happens and is tracked on chain the whole time. So there's going to be ways that we're going to have that teed up and rolled out. Now that's going to take a little while, and social proofing and things along those lines that a lot of people don't even stop to think about. And the dynamics of royalties for these pieces being put out. Now, there's a huge argument out there right now that royalties aren't necessary because you have all these projects that are building out PFPs, and they're doing it real quick just using AI, and that's it. And these builders and founders are just collecting 10% royalties and ultimately doing a rug pull on everybody, and just not really looking after their community, not looking after any artists, not looking after anybody. And I think these physical NFTs through our new technology is going to be changing that dynamic in the NFT space as a whole. but also for physical artists, kind of like you said, the protection of the royalties increases and is just a whole new dynamic we haven't really seen much of in the art world in general or the NFT space. So I'm real excited to see where that goes. If anybody wants to ask any questions of the artists or us, let us know. Go ahead and raise your hand or request to speak, and I can potentially bring you up. You see some followers coming in here. Some I'm blocking and removing. There's some what I'll call some legacy account followers that I don't even know if they're real or not. So getting rid of them. But everybody, thank you for hopping in here. And I do know that we have so many different use cases that we can talk about on any given day. But this one of one and the art world and the connectivity with NFTs is going to be creating a whole new conversation. I don't see much conversation centered around one of one NFTs and digital conversation really happening that much right now. But I do see a lot of institutions and enterprises and all these different companies that are actually starting to be very clearly opening their internal discussions on these things. And Andrew can speak on, we've got meetings that so many people would wish they would have. And these companies are interested right now, specifically in this right now.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of ask you a question too, Adam. I mean, obviously, Elon took over Twitter, and now Twitter is saying, they're going to allow users to buy and sell NFTs via tweets. And I think that's, really interesting when you couple that with our technology, because, people are now going to be able to buy physical products and, physical artwork via Twitter. And I wanted to kind of go through what you see that being for us and our technology and how big of an opportunity that is, and just kind of curious your thoughts there on what Twitter's doing.
Well, I think it's absolutely huge. It's going to help with adoption in general. It's going to be mass adoption of NFTs, but people aren't going to know it's NFTs with our technology, at least. You're going to be able to sell physical objects. So if you want to put something on the chain as a company or a creator that isn't a physical object, if you created it and you put it up on the chain and want to sell it, you're going to be able to sell via a tweet real quick, real easy. And that's really cool. I've actually already been preparing to create these Twitter cards that are automatically done. If you go to list a product on Shop LITH, it's going to have a Twitter card that can be have the 3D model shown on Twitter and opened up from Twitter directly into you have an option to click on it and go into the AR or VR versioning of that. So you'll be able to see a product sitting in your house, whether it's a piece of artwork or let's say a coffee table. You'll be able to see it in your house. And the use case here and utility is absolutely massive for Twitter. They see it. They know that this is what's coming, and all the enterprises are talking about. Everybody's trying to tie in. Azuki just put something out that was like, I'm going to excuse my language here, but it was a half-assed versioning of what we're doing over at Shoplith. But people know what we're doing at scale right now. Behind the scenes, and it's kind of cool knowing that the likes of Twitter and Reddit are really starting to ramp up all of these use cases for sales of NFTs. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen here, Andrew and everybody else, and I think you can probably agree. If you disagree, that's fine. Let me know in the replies on this space here, bottom right-hand corner. What are your thoughts on the mass adoption here and the companies building out, but also is the word NFT going to disappear? I think it is. I think NFT, to me, and I've said this for a while now, Andrew, you've heard me say this, mm-hmm. It's not going to be called NFTs. To me, an NFT is just a technology stack. It is or part of a technology stack. It's a piece of software. and it's a delivery of smart contracts in a way that is unique and attachable to other NFTs, other pieces of software. It's able to interact and engage. And in the next phases of dynamic NFTs, we're going to start building our own stories on Twitter, choosing which video I want to watch, which song I want to listen to, and it's going to be a playlist of sorts. And even having an AR file that now is my character in a video game. I am adding all these other AR files and attaching it to it. Now I have a whole story inside of my own custom built video game. That's what's coming. That's what people are working on. And not enough people talk right now about dynamic NFTs on Twitter Spaces, but the conversations are loud in the development forums right now. Dynamic NFTs are everything in the NFT space. And I think with our technology specifically, what that's going to do and allow for with Twitter having everything going on, we're going to be able to sell all of these little pieces to a different coffee table dining table set with a buffet next to it. I think there's applications that are going to be coming out like that, where you're now doing your in-home build right away, and you can even see it inside of your metaverse home, which is a replica of your home. People are going to start doing that. We've already got architectural, actually, and I have pure insights here to this. Architectural surveying is one of the fastest growing industries right now because of the metaverse. So a lot of companies, including Starbucks, are actually, and McDonald's, both of them are actually hiring these architectural surveying companies to go in and scan the insides of their restaurants, inside of their businesses, and it's being used for the metaverse. And they're buying plots of land actually pretty slowly, but they're also having a lot of people behind avatars do it for them. And it's really interesting when you start thinking about that and the sales on Twitter and in Reddit, and Facebook's going to be tying in, Instagram's going to be tying in. They've already been talking about this. They plan on doing this, and don't be fooled by what you guys see. What Zuckerberg is putting out on Facebook. He's actually building some really cool stuff behind the scenes. But I think the implications here are even bigger for the one-on-one art than anything else, just because it actually has an immediate use case similar to the furniture world. You see it on Lowe's already. You can go buy a gondola and see what it looks like in your backyard. But that's going to be available immediately on Twitter. Hopefully that answers your question in full and even a little bit more there, Andrew.
I haven't spoken yet, so I'm going to hop in here real quick. I totally agree with what you just said. And even like Jason and I, who's our product manager, for anybody who doesn't know him, Ninja Ethics in here, he and I were kind of going over, he got some of the Warner Brothers Lord of the Rings NFTs, and we were kind of playing around with the AR VR file, and just the simple application is actually really smooth too. Of, you have your digital model and then you activate, your AR VR, like your scanner on your phone, and it implements that model, and you can move it, manipulate it. It even casts shadows based on what light is already existing through that photo. So yeah, I definitely think that's going to be a huge part of the integration, especially for like, say, all right, I own Brett's weighting number 255. Well, man, I really kind of like the look of 258, but I also like 257. Let me just pull up my phone and scan my wall and put it up next to it. Now I have the AR VR model to where I can just see if it, how it flows and test all that out. So I definitely think that integration is going to be huge. And once people get that player or that viewer built into their apps and built in through, like, we already have ours on LITH beta that we're working on right now. Not live yet for everybody to see, but it is working. And that's, I think, really going to be that ease of use case. Even in our work group text, I think it was Andrew who had actually shared something about like an AR mirror. So now you start thinking about the implications here in the fashion industry. Well, you have either your mirror showing you physically, or you can put it on the metaverse with your built to scale model of yourself. And now I can really try on a piece in a digital dressing room before I have to spend, say $1,000 on this Balenciaga t-shirt or whatever the hell. So I really think that's going to be that nice seamless integration of that tech. And that's going to also go into the next thing I was going to say is to touch on what you said about NFTs, Adam. Are they going to be called NFTs? I mean, Adam and I were literally talking about this last night. I think it's going to be just like the MP3 wave. When MP3s came out, everybody's like, oh, digital music's going to kill the sound quality, going to ruin it, bring us back to vinyl days. Like, we don't want this MP3 crap. What is that? Well, now 10 years later, what does everybody use? MP3s and MP4s. They're just playing it through Spotify and they're playing it through Apple Music. So I think it's once people get over the initial hurdle of, that objection to the word NFT, they're going to say, oh, it's digital media. Just like they did on Reddit when they said, okay, now you can have all your PFPs uploaded. People are buying NFTs. They just don't necessarily realize it. To them, it's just digital media.
Yeah, that's one of the things I find really exciting, what you were talking about, being able to put 3 of Brett's paintings, for example, side by side and see how they look together and see which one you'd like to add to your collection. I love this idea. I love the fact that somebody in Tokyo can't maybe come over today to look at all the actual paintings in a gallery in London, but they can go into the VR world and they can visit the gallery and they can bring all of our artworks out of the LITH tokens, storeroom, for example, and see which one of Brett's looks good with one of Rob Roy's. There's something about those 2 works that look good together. I think that's could be incredible. I've been talking to some of our artists recently about, just the possibilities of putting on simultaneous virtual reality, physical gallery, and NFT gallery exhibitions all at once, having an opening of a show that's on in 10 cities. It's the options of what could be possible with this are just limitless, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good way, like what you were talking about, putting on the digital galleries. I think it's a really good way to kind of bridge the gap between those serious, high level, either rich, for lack of a better term, investors or collectors versus your average day layman, who I'm all right, but I'm not very well off, in terms of that scale. But so I'm following Gucci and Louis Vuitton and Hermes and all this stuff on LinkedIn and watching these really cool installations and galleries and all this stuff that I would love to be a part of. But shit, I can't just drop $2K on a flight to Paris for the week. So I think that's where you give your average day consumer, your average day user, the ability to be into that experience and feel associated with that brand. And I think that's what increases your market share overall, increases your brand loyalty overall, because you're inclusive to those people. And then on the opposite sense, if you want to make it exclusive, then you can say, all right, say you're hosting, a gallery, Mark, and you're like, all right, anybody who's bought my, higher level pieces, well, for number's sake, we'll call it that they started price at 3 ETH or something like that, right? So not crazy expensive, but nicer up there. And so you have it gated to where on that level, if they've bought either X amount of pieces or a certain level of piece, now then they can have a gated entry to that curation or to that digital gallery that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is stuff I've been thinking about. Like I was saying earlier, one of the things I'm going to make for LITH Token is the beginning of an ongoing series of paintings. And I like the idea of if somebody buys one of the paintings in the series, maybe they're getting first dibs on the next batch which come out, or, maybe people can make their suggestions on what the future canvases will include. And if your idea gets put into one of the canvases, you get first refusal on buying it, or maybe I even offer it to you at a slightly lower price because you played a part in its creation. I mean, there's so many ways you could play this, and getting back to the question of will we kind of move on and forget about NFTs? I definitely think it will become something kind of secondary in the background, especially with the way LITH Token is combining physical artwork with NFTs or any physical item of value with NFTs. The way I've been promoting it to artists I talk about, and there's a lot of artists that I've met and reached out to and spoken to, and to get people on board with LITH Token. And some people are just scared. Like they just don't understand what NFTs are. They don't quite see how they would fit into it. they maybe say things like, "Oh, I'm old-fashioned in my approach, my ways of thinking about my art," and I just keep telling them, you can still be old-fashioned. You are still just selling your piece of work, which is an oil painting on a canvas, for example, but there's this little digital version, which is the security behind it all, which is adding value to it all, and it's going to keep money coming into your pocket, infinitely. So, like, it's just something there adding value to the physical item and putting more power back into the hands of artists. So I think it will stay around, but with what LITH token's doing, it's just taking it into a different field.
Yeah, I'll pick that up. I raised my hand, but I'll pick that up. I think that an important distinction. I really think LITH token is doing something that other NFT projects have not done before. I mean, we are in many ways. That's kind of our whole definition, but it is something that's more approachable. And I think we brought up the question earlier, like, is the word NFTs going to be used in the future? And I think absolutely not. It's going to be something for at least for artists wanting to come into the space, and I'm talking traditional artists. Like we're working with traditional physical artists that are making paintings, that are making real world art in a way that people have been doing for thousands of years, as you said. And this aspect, getting it really isn't NFTs for the sake of NFTs. It's NFTs for all of the technology that NFTs offer. It is locking in, whereas we're talking about locking in royalties, locking in the anti-counterfeiting properties, making sure you know that this actually is the piece that you're buying, it's not a counterfeit. And especially down the road, like I do believe every artist we're working with has the potential to become an enormous one of these artists that is selling their paintings for $1 million down the road. And the fact that this technology is locked in place for the pieces that we're creating, that's going to ensure that when that happens down the road, there's this greater authentication. We know that is locked in place. This is something we keep talking about a lot, but they're selling for whatever price now. But if it sells for $1 million, the artist deserves a piece of that. They deserve to. I love this quote. The artists deserve to benefit from the success of their work. That's what that was. That was the quote. Artists deserve to benefit from the success of their work. And I'm not even really talking like NFT artists. That's where the conversation, I think, is coming to play. And again, I'm rambling again, but all of these NFT marketplaces that are now going to 0% royalties. I guess it's coming from a mindset I had to understand. I was like, I don't, that's the whole selling point of NFTs is there's royalties for artists, but then realizing the fact that a lot of the artwork they're flipping on these marketplaces is this generative art. It's not really even, I think a lot of people are talking about not artists necessarily making the work. It's businesses hiring people off of Fiverr to create all of the different models. And it's like, okay, no, I understand where you would maybe not be so passionately fighting for royalties on stuff like that, but what we're doing at LITH Token, we are passionate. We do believe but we're talking about artists putting their blood, sweat, and tears into creating one of ones that are not generative, that are real. Like each piece is a significant amount of time and effort put into it that it really does deserve royalties in the same way that other industries, like a song, a composer creating a song, they put their time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into that piece. And it's a standard practice in that industry to have royalties. Why is this not the same thing for physical art? And Brett, I see you coming off of mute, and I'll stop talking and hand you the baton.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to what you just said. I mean, I really think the biggest misconception with NFTs is the NFTs that everyone's familiar with right now, which is a JPEG base essentially, which doesn't have a lot of use case or like utility other than it being a flippable piece of artwork, digital artwork. And I think that's a misconception, right? Because NFTs is essentially a technology. And I forgot the woman's name, the journalist, but in the early 90s when the internet was being developed, she writes for the New York Times. I remember reading an article about I remember something she said in an article she wrote. She said, anything that can be digitized will be digitized, right? Everything that can be digitized will be digitized. So like now we're like fast forward almost 20 years and we're there and everything is becoming digital, right? Everything is becoming digitized. And the artists are just the first ones to sort of like be utilized for the NFT space. But like we have to sort of, I guess there's an educational sort of like learning part to it where like people just have to understand that the NFT is actual, it's a technology, right? And it can be a piece of artwork. Like I read another article about a programmer a couple months ago, and the programmer was talking about like there are programmers that write all this code, and then it becomes open source code, and then like anyone has access to that code. So like what happens, a lot of like big data, big tech companies will adopt that code and use it, and not give the original author, the programmer, any sort of compensation or any sort of credit for the code that they stole or are using for the backing of their, platform or whatever. So if that code was turned into an NFT, every time the code is being used by somebody, then the original author, the programmer, would receive some sort of royalty. And that's just like one example, right, of how an NFT can be used other than it being a still image, a JPEG. And I think like when people start realizing that it's way more than just a JPEG, then it'll probably get more or become more mass adopted. And that's all I want to say.
Well, I think some people are already doing, like probably the biggest or most obvious example is the VFriends thing. Like you have these drawings which aren't great pieces of art, but you're just buying that and it gives you some sort of royalty in what VFriends is going to do. Like having the roadmap or the 5-year plan of toys and films and series or comic books or whatever people want to do. There's these different ways of having a utility. But I think like what LITH token's doing is going to take things back towards like the actual artwork. Like I think from January to 2021 to January of 2022, the way the NFT market grew was just insane. But it was a lot of people jumping on a bandwagon that didn't know anything about art, that weren't artists, that didn't have a passion for art. They just saw a way to make some money quickly. So I think the whole market got flooded with basically a lot of rubbish. And I think what's going to happen now is it has to come back to something that's quality. And I think marrying physical and digital artwork together in the way that LITH token's about to do or is already doing is kind of the key for that. We have to bring it back to something that's quality to find out what the true market really is.
I couldn't agree more with that, and I'm excited to see where things actually go with this technology that we have working and up, and it's only phase one of being up, and once it starts getting pretty and everybody starts coming in, it's going to be real exciting to see what starts being made from digital into physical. I think that's going to happen. You start seeing these crazy Beeple's digital versions made, and now all of a sudden, how does that tie into your physical IRL scenario, right? I think there's a lot of elements to this that the digital art that's there, these JPEGs that are already there, people are going to start shifting their mind back to the in real life applications, and it's going to be real exciting to see how refined it gets. Is it going to be hyper realistic AR that we get in front of us, so that way we see grandma that we wanted to have another interaction with her after she passed. God bless her soul, you know. That's where this technology as a whole is really going to start connecting the world in a different way for specifically, I think, one artists the most. They're going to be more involved in the sciences. They're going to be more involved in the world of computers in a way that they can actually help build something that has a true use case for individuals. And I think we're going back to the same respect for the one-on-one artist as was had back in the Renaissance and other periods of the highbrow art actually being the movement for science as well. And it just gets to be more and more exciting as you really look into the NFT technology. And, you know, there's things out there. Don't let anybody fool you guys about the royalties. There's a way to mint NFTs and have a ban on certain marketplace contract addresses. So, you know, if we're looking at a one-of-one piece of artwork minted in, and we're building out a no-code solution for this too, is you can have in the NFT that it won't be able to go over to Magic Eden, who's doing 0% royalties as an option to buyers. You can actually have those blacklisted. And we're going to have an optional royalty lock, which is going to be probably a big move too that a lot of people are not really talking about. It should be left up to the creator of whatever product is being put on chain. And I believe that that'll help businesses out as well, because now there's a whole new revenue model, and items can actually start becoming more affordable to buy that first round, you know, and let it grow. And the more it's needed and wanted, people will be buying as a secondary use case, just like art. So I think it's a dynamic shifting technology as a whole. NFTs are, and then our technology is actually bringing it to a whole nother level. I'm going to pull in.
Sorry, I just want to say, I think any company that wants to try and tie in 0% royalties should be ashamed of themselves. I think it's disgraceful. And while we're talking about digitizing everything, I mean, what's happened with streaming platforms and Spotify, the amount of money that they give to the artist is disgusting, you know. And I think that we can't allow that to happen with NFTs, and to do it to all creative people in the world. They should be ashamed of themselves.
I agree, Mark.
And it's hard to disagree with that unless you're being a selfish, greedy person. And you know, there are a lot of people like that in the NFT space right now, which is okay. I think that they've helped bring a lot of attention to the space, and even helped me start understanding what needed to be fixed to start working on it. I'm not the only person. There's a lot of us out there. So that's really cool. And actually, on that note, I'm going to try to bring a Gami up here.
Yeah, I've been trying. Adam, do you know how many speakers we're allowed to have? Do we need to maybe cycle some people?
No, we have enough room. I'm not sure why it's not working right now, because I just invited them actually on 2 different occasions and approved them once. So
Yeah,
sometimes you just got to try over and over again.
Yeah, this is just
Well, while we're waiting, I did want to jump in and say hi to everyone. I'm Tanya. I am a senior administrator here at LITH Token, and I do have to say I've worked one-on-one with our artists that we've onboarded for this first curated round, and we have some amazing artists. I've seen every piece that will be up available on ShopLith once we launch, and there's something amazing about all of our artists and all of the pieces. So before, it's just, you know, I'm learning new things as well. And it's wonderful. So, and very exciting. And we appreciate you guys so much.
No, absolutely. On that note, everybody's going to be super excited once the marketplace shows its face at another level, because these artists are all not just the ones here, even though you guys are absolutely amazing. Want to give a shout out to the and it's some of the highest level artists in the world. Average price, listing price, and sale price is going to be fairly high compared to what a lot of people are seeing on a launch, just because these artists are at that level. And they're not even going to be priced out because they just have products that are already selling for these amounts that you're seeing that are high for an entry level price. But I want to give Patrick here an opportunity